The story of Gimple the Fool is about a man by the same name, who is actively insulted in his hometown by everyone. Yet himself doesn't care that the town mocks him to an extreme point. Gimple will be constantly harassed by everyone, to the point he compares himself to a golem, which is seen from a Jewish folklore, since Gimple comes from Jewish faith. He sees himself as just a lifeless creature that is used by everyone for entertainment. Gimple must be the lies he is told, for if not, the entire village sees him as a liar. Therefore, he would rather be seen as a moron than as a liar. Gimple then had begun to start working, which people continued to follow him even while working an honest job, to the point of claiming the Messiah has come, the dead have arisen, and fool him into believing that his dead parents had risen back from the dead. After this, Gimple entrusts in the rabbi for some advice, in which the main theme of the story is explained, in which the rabbi says, "It is written, better to be a fool all of your days than for 1 hour to be a devil." As the story progresses, Gimple is matched up to be married to the whore of the town. Gimple himself knows that she is. "No chaste maiden, but they told me she was a virgin poor. She had a bastard, and they told me the child was her little brother." Yet once more, Gimple is chastised for going against the town and then ends up marrying her. She then ends up pregnant and then ends up giving birth to a son in the synagogue. Gimple then ends up questioning his life, as the child which his wife Elka has born was born premature, suggesting it's not his. Mentioning Adam and Eve, that there isn't a woman in the world who is not the granddaughter of Eve. Gimple then becomes attached to the child and his wife Elka. He will steal rations for his family so that they will be well fed. After this, Gimple says that Elka's brother begins to fight him, while Elka verbally abuses Gimple, but he simply works with it. For as Gimple says, shoulders are from God, and burdens too. Then, after a fire in the bakery, Gimple shows up in his house earlier and finds a man lying with his wife Elka. Gimple then goes to the rabbi, and the entire turns on him for suggesting such a false rumor. For everyone took the side of Elka, but the rabbi tells Gimple that the only option is to divorce her and leave her with her children, for they are no longer his concern. Gimple sadly doesn't rationalize and decides to continue to live with Elka. Elka then gives birth to another child. Then the town starts mocking him once more. Gimple sees that believing in everything is good, for as he puts it, what's the good of not believing? Today it's your wife you don't believe. Tomorrow it's your God himself you won't take stock in. Gimple then begins working with an apprentice, who tells his dad, "You have a very decent little and 2 fine kids. You don't deserve them." Gimple then brings food home, being finally happy. Yet this happiness then disappears as he sees the apprentice laying with Elka. Elka then sends him out to see if his goats are fine. Gimple then leaves and comes back, seeing that the apprentice has gone. She then manipulates Gimple into believing what he saw is not real, as her brothers beat him in the back of the head. Even after all of this, Gimple lived 20 years with his wife and had 4 daughters and 2 sons. And after all she put him through, she finally feels guilt after how she treated Gimple. She asks, "Forgive me, Gimple. I want to go to clean to my maker, and so I have to tell you that the children are not yours." Gimple, in the climax of the story, then encounters the devil, or the spirit of evil himself, and the devil then puts an idea into Gimple's head by saying, "The whole world deceives you. You ought to deceive the world in your turn." He then says, "You might accumulate a bucket of urine every day, and at night pour it into the dough. Let the sage of Rample eat filth." Gimple is almost disgracing the body of Chris by being tempted into urinating into the dough, almost disgracing his role as the scapegoat of the town of Rample. Once Gimple proceeds to be tempted, he feels a sense of pride after finally being the one to fool the town rather than it being the other way around, committing the sin of the devil. As he stood near to the oven, he feels the flames of the oven, almost feeling the guilt of the sin he has committed, getting an example of the hell for what he has done. The guilt is personified as his wife, Elka, who guilts him into going against the sin he has committed. Elka states that, "You fool! Because I was false, is everything false too? I never deceived anyone but myself. I'm paying for it all, Gimple. They spare you nothing here." Even though Elka lived a life of trickery and fooling Gimple, for all the pain she caused him and she is suffering in hell, and she doesn't want Gimple to face the same fate as her. Gimple then came to a realization that his life was hanging by a thread. He states, "A false eternal life, but God gave me his health," suggesting that it was God who saved him that day from that sin and led him to live a better life. In conclusion, Gimple borrows the towel and leaves Frampool to venture off, and he finally realizes that lies do not exist. He sees the town of Frampool and Elk in his dreams. He is ready to die. His last line in the story being, "Whatever might be there, it will be real, without complication, without ridicule, without deception. God be praised. There even Gimple cannot be deceived." Gimple's last day as a fool. I am Gimple the Fool. Many years have passed since I was once given that name, for my beard and hair has gone white, and the lies I have been told have become true. The town of Frampool that I once knew has crumbled in its own lies, for nothing but ash. The bakery burned to a crisp like the very bread it once made. God has given me a great life, but it seems that Frampool lived a godless life. For the great synagogue was replaced with a factory that is no longer in use. The rabbi was buried surrounded by sinners and heretics, who were the ones who buried him first. I felt conflicting feelings as I saw the graves of all those while passing by. A sense of pride felt over me that I hadn't felt in years. Those who made my life miserable for so long finally have passed on to the brimstone and hell they made my life for so long. I saw only one familiar face that day in Frampool approaching me, the same gaudy bear and horse that he had the day we had first met. "I told you once before, Gimple, nothing but a thick marsh awaits those." I looked at him with a sense of deep sadness, for it seems that he was right. I could not argue with the man because I had nothing to argue against him with it. It all felt unreal. The nonsense you so lovingly pursued for so long, where has it gotten you? You have outlived your legacy, even your town. What has Gimple, the man to say? I fell to my knees and held my head. "You lie, spirit of evil. Beelzebub, I am a lot of things, old friend, but a liar I am not. You could have it all. Finally gotten redemption, been a fool no longer, but it seems that the name stuck for the rest of your miserable life." As I woke and ignored the man, I walked into the bakery and saw that the old charcoal is still with ember. I decided to go back to my old passion and decided to light up the stove once more, to feel the warmth of the past. I picked up all the charcoal I could find and tossed it into the pit of hell itself and lit it up. I saw the flame engulf all my surrounding. What is punishment I deserve? "Gimple, do you know why Frampool fell under its own weight?" I asked desperately. "Why?" The man replied, "Because of you, Gimple. Of the horrid dog you buried, it had contaminated all the crops and poisoned the rabbi, the only man who had your best interest in his heart." How hilarious, man. The fire grew around me, and it got harder to breathe through the flames. All I saw was the figure of the man. As the fire grew more and more, the maniacal laughs of the man grew and grew. "Gimple, what have you done?" That voice sounded familiar. It was Helka. I saw her from walking forward. She reached out her hand and reached out mine. Then it all went white.